Radio City 91.1 FM. This is me, RJ Archana Panya Sharma. And May's month is known as the World Mental Health Awareness Month. And we're all aware that in the pandemic last year on, we've all been forced to look into our minds. And sometimes the mind can be very creative and sometimes not so very creative. In fact, most of the times I think it travels so much that it could trouble us more than it can serve us. And that's probably why we have some professionals, and this particular one who's gone out of his way. I think he's more of a philanthropist, if you ask me, than a doctor. Dr. Avinash Sousa, who's a consultant psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and is also a school psychiatrist. Now, I can't say how much I thank him for that because, when we're younger, our minds are racing even faster than ever before. He also is a research associate at the Department of Psychiatry at Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Medical College. And he also runs a foundation, the D'Souza Foundation, which is primarily, of course, looking into mental health awareness and ensuring that mental health is available in all sectors, because we tend to undermine that how human beings across socioeconomics actually require help with this. He's authored 12 books and actually publishes across 700 publications nationally and internationally. Has a master's in counseling and psychotherapy, and very few psychiatrists actually go that far to do that. So thank you very much for joining me, Dr. Avinash. I cannot tell you, I'm so inspired by just how much you're extending yourself through your field for humanity.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Dr. Avinash, most of us don't even realize that stress is not a word for only working professionals or people who have a lot of activity to face. Stress and anxiety is something that can happen even to young people. And some of us, like if you look at me, my disposition is such that, oh, she's bubbly and she's happy, she can't have stress. And people do that to me often as well. But could you tell me that what are the signs of somebody being under stress and anxiety?
Okay, so to cut it very simple, I tell people that stress is anything that makes you uncomfortable. It could, vary from person to person. So something that may stress you out may not stress me out. Something that may stress me out may not stress you out. So it's a highly individual thing. So a small thing like being late may stress me out. A small thing like being on time being particular may stress me out, whereas for you it may not matter. You may be very cool about it. So when we look at what are the symptoms of stress, I think when you begin to feel nervous, when you begin to feel worried, when you begin to feel some palpitations, you begin to feel some mood swings, that your mood goes up and down, you tend to get snappy, you tend to get angry, you tend to get irritable. And this is manifested in many ways. So you start losing your head with people at home, you start getting angry with the servants who are working with you, you start get angry with maybe the lift man, the people in your office, you start getting snappy on the road. And if nothing else, you also tend to get emotional. You feel overwhelmed, you may feel like crying, you may feel upset, and you may feel, oh, I'm good for nothing, I'm not really capable of doing anything, and I'm a failure, and whatever I do goes wrong. So when you start telling yourself all these negative things, it's the first indication that you're probably stressed, and that you need to rest, and relax, and probably therefore work on those lines. So that I would say those are the basic indications of stress. And if you have medical problems, particularly blood pressure, diabetes, then that's an indication that you are probably more likely to be stressed.
There is, like I said about the children bit, kids are so addicted these days that if you don't give them their phones, they get snappy. So I'm trying to apply this to them. Would it be that they are under stress and anxiety too?
Well, I think what happens is that, post the lockdown and in the lockdown scenario, kids have built their world around their smartphones. They don't seem to leave their smartphones. They have this whole invisible world that is, within their phone, and they don't want to socialize or meet people. Now, so therefore, taking away the phone, taking away their gadgets is definitely going to lead to a lot of stress in them. They're going to get anxious, they're going to get angry, they're going to get aggressive, they're going to feel sad. I mean, it's as good as like a part of their world being taken away. But we'll only be able to successfully do that if we're able to give them an alternative world, which is, viable. And we have to teach them that alternative world, that there's a world beyond their gadget.
Dr. Avinash, what is resilience and why is it important to build upon this during the pandemic?
Okay, resilience is a psychological term which we use to look at your ability to bounce back from any stress or trauma that you've been affected. So let's say in the COVID pandemic, we've had people who've lost a loved one. We've had people who've lost a job. We've had people where relationships have been broken. So your ability to bounce back from that to normalcy again is called resilience. Now, this is very, very important in from a psychological point of view, because your degree of resilience and stress, your ability to deal with stress depends on your resilience. And if you're resilient, you can overcome almost anything. So there are a number of factors that determine resilience, like having family support, having friends, having people around you, having a fixed job, a fixed salary, financial security, multiple factors. So when I have all this, I'm more resilient. Whereas if I have none of these, or I probably lack some of these, my resilience decreases. So one of our activities in this pandemic has been to cultivate resilience. We're looking at building resilience, because I feel once we build that as a community, we'll be better. And at this point, I'll also want to add, what you've spoken about is individual resilience. That is one person. There's also something called family resilience, where the family, is tough. So sometimes we see many families where one person may be little weak, but because he has 2 or 3 family members are very strong, the cumulative resilience is good, and he bounces back very easily. And there's also something called community resilience, like I would say the city of Mumbai. I mean, we always have the tendency to bounce back from any adversity that affects us.
So, are there various methods to build this resilience? Because I'm sure this is like, like how we train our minds to cope with regular exercise, waking up on time. This to me is resilience, because somewhere you're committed, you're ensuring there's a good relationship and it's healthy, and it's not stressing you out. How do you? What are the techniques to manage positive resilience?
I think the most important facet is that we need to be associated with friends. We need to be associated with people who are positive and who are near us. We need to talk to people. Very often we don't express ourselves. So I think one of the most important factors is expressing what you feel, when you feel it, and how you feel it. It's very important. Not suppressing your emotions. At the same time, learning how to deal with what bothers you. So if it is a strict boss, if it is unemployment, if it is work, if it is a marital issue, if it is some other stress, trying to deal with it through counseling, through other issues. And also we have what we call resilience training, where we take you through various situations. That, let's say, if you underwent this, how would you feel? What is the one situation that you dread the most in your life? And if you did go through that, imagine that you were going through that, how you would react. And we then tell you alternative coping mechanisms than the one you would choose. So what's very important is positive coping. A lot of people use negative coping. Now, what is negative coping? If I'm under stress, I may smoke, I may drink, I may try and engage in self-injurious behavior or aggressive behavior, which is negative coping. Positive coping would be yoga, meditation, mindfulness, speaking to friends, music, multiple things. So that is something which I think is very, very important, where we cultivate resilience. And this has to be done right from a young age. In fact, I always say resilience building has to be part of school curriculums. And if they are part of school curriculums, we'll have a whole group of young people full of resilience in the long run.
Dr. D'Souza, we have you for that. You are visiting schools and making sure it's going to become a part of our curriculum.
Definitely.
Dr. D'Souza, I think a lot of people, they lack faith in their ability to be able to help others, and then there's others who lack trust. That will this person be able to help me? So sometimes what you just said being the very big factor of expressing oneself, like talking to someone. Sometimes I find myself digging into people if I feel they're stressed. So then I'll be like, "What are you? How are you?" And I think I don't like it, but I do feel that at the end of the talk that they feel better, and I feel like I'm partaking in that process of resilience, like you just said. How do we help our loved ones when they're under stress?
Well, I think we have to tell our loved ones that it's normal to be stressed. Very often the feeling is, oh, I have something wrong with me, that's why I'm stressed. No, it's very normal to be stressed. I always tell people feeling depressed, feeling anxious, feeling worried are very normal emotions. But we very often tend to pathologize them and say, oh, this is, an illness. If tomorrow I have an exam, it's very normal to feel anxious. If a friend, in simple words, cheats on me, or, tells me some lies or talks rudely to me, it's very normal to feel depressed. So these are normal emotions. We have to tell people, talk about them. So we have to get people to speak about their emotions, express what they feel. I always tell relatives that, you have every right to feel angry, sad, unhappy, but talk about them. Don't suppress them and keep them within you. We are here to provide you with support. If you feel my support is not enough, then we can consult a mental health professional. But the other factor also is that don't hesitate to consult a mental health professional. As a psychiatrist, I've always seen people come to me after the problem. Doctor, I'm depressed because this happened. I'm anxious because this happened. I've never had anyone who's come to me, like I've just come for my 6 monthly mental health checkup to see how, mentally healthy I am. I've always had people come to me with disorders. So I always say we need to normalize mental health. Like we do our blood tests every 6 months or every 1 year. We need to normalize mental health and have mental health checkups. So that would give you an idea about how to manage stress.
I guess it's because it's not a very tangible testing method. People feel that, of course, in our country, the main thing being why should we spend on something that is not tangible. The other that they don't realize how relaxed they could be with empathizing words, or somebody who knows how to kind of maneuver your thoughts towards being more constructive with your mind. That'll take a while, I'm sure. But I do know that this pandemic has put a lot of parents under stress as to what are their kids going to turn out to be after 2 years of no schooling, of no social interaction, and especially now with the third wave coming, we know that they are the ones who are most under threat. What would you like to tell parents who are trying to build that resilience in their children, and probably they're worried about their own their children's mental health situation?
Yeah, I will tell parents this is a time where you have to spend a lot of time with your children. Talk to them, learn to know about them, express yourself freely to them. You're all at home. So you have this huge chance of spending time alone, even if you have more than one child, spending time alone with your children, spending time with them, children as a group, spending time as a family. So spend a lot of time to speak to each other, discuss things, discuss your negativities, positivities, and build that bond, which you probably weren't able to build because of working too hard, or being busy, or multiple other factors. It's also essential that we have to realize online education is also a form of education. It was always there. It's just that now it's become compulsory because we don't have a choice. And even in the online education, it's important that we don't take it lightly. We look at it as seriously as we would look at school. So make sure that the children are actually attending. Make sure they're in their school uniform. Make sure they're seated on a table and chair just like they'll be seated in school. And very importantly, make sure that it's not a time that they just walk in and walk out. They have to sit as they would sit in any classroom. So don't give them those liberties just because they're at home. Don't come with a snack and give them a snack and say, okay, have this in between while your teacher is teaching. No, let them learn to respect that classroom as a classroom would be. And also be particular about their homework, be particular about their assignments. Don't allow them to cheat during the exams. These are things which are very, very important. And I think what's also important is parents need to also understand that just because the child is at home and has no physical outlet doesn't mean that the gadget remains with him forever. There are multiple things like cooking, baking, home gardening, if it's stitching, depending on the interest of the child, art, craft, projects. I mean, educational tools, even online, which can be used. In fact, there are a number of, I remember a parent with a small child telling me, how do I keep the child busy? And I said, a number of zoos and a number of museums have online tours available. So just take the child and walk the child through the zoo, as though you're actually going to the zoo, and show him things rather than just showing him a cartoon or a movie. So there are a lot of things a parent can do, but you need to just structure your day and your time well, and you'll be able to do it.
There are also a lot of elders who are obviously going through the most stressful era of their times, and it's so sad that they're having to face all of this and more. Their levels of stress and us wanting to build their resilience has been the biggest challenge in many ways than one, because they don't know how to express the fact that they don't feel like going out and interacting with people anymore, while they actually want that. And some of them are stubborn about doing it and not caring about their health. So this is like the most trickiest lot, if you ask me.
Well, indeed. In fact, I remember when I had a number of elder patients who were under my care, and when the first wave came in, the biggest worry for them was, how am I going to use digitalization? I don't know. And the worry was, how am I going to be in touch with my children? There was a death anxiety that came in. There was a worry about whether I'll ever see my children again. Will my children ever see me again? What if something happens to me and the children are abroad? And then this whole issue about people dying and not being cremated well, and multiple things came in, and that began to worry them. And they saw some of their friends pass away, which added to their woes. So one of the things we told younger members of society was, first teach them to get digitalized, teach them how to use WhatsApp, teach them how to use internet banking, teach them how to order online. And if they are not able to do it, which we can understand can happen with their age, do it for them, and put them on a video call every day with their children. Make sure that they talk to their children, put them on a video call whenever they want, so that they're at ease, that they are there. Even for that matter, do their banking for them if they don't know how to operate. And these are things which will help them immensely. And slowly, I think a lot of the elders have adapted. And in India, we have, and particularly in Mumbai, we have a lot of situations where I say parents in India and children abroad. So that's a big situation where it gets very difficult for the elders to manage alone, and particularly when they're not allowed to go out in this entire COVID situation. So for many elders, I know, just that one walk in the garden where he would meet 5 other people who were elder, or that one morning walk where they would talk to the vegetable vendor, they would talk to the dhobi, they would, was so much important to their day, which just got cut off, and a lot of them began to feel sad. So connecting elders even online became very important. So with such methods, we were able to overcome it. Though I think a number of elders have still got a little upset with this whole being at home thing, and they never had their children around 24 hours. So there have been some issues, don't do this, don't do that, multiple things in smaller houses that do come up. But I think we've adapted well.
Frontline workers, and we know that God bless them and hats off to them. And I think for them, they have no other option but to face their stress head on, and they don't even realize their stress probably. And I think that is a lot that's going to require a very organized format of giving or extending ourselves to them to ensure that they're healed. What is the best way they can build their own resilience during this time?
Well, I think initially when we had the first wave, I don't have any qualms in admitting it. Even I was scared as a doctor because I didn't know what would happen. And being a psychiatrist, I'm not someone who is so much into intensive care and so much into the medical field. So the worry was, what if I get infected? What if something happens to me? What will happen to my child after me? I mean, all sorts of things did come into my mind. So probably the first 15, 20 days, I didn't really go and meet patients, and I was primarily seeing people online. Then I realized that there are so many people out there who are working, and they're also doctors, and they're younger than me, of course, and they're doing so much of work. So we also have to do our bit, and that's when we decided to start visiting hospitals. And one of the things I tell frontline workers is, remember, you're a doctor. It's very good to be courageous. It's very good to be wanting to serve others, but you also have to be very importantly working from the point of view that you also have to be very importantly working wherein you try to get the courage to also take care of yourself. Because I always say, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to serve others. So eat well, sleep well, listen to music, relax, take your day off wisely. It's very important. You have 4 days of work, 1 day of off, take that day off wisely. So use that to recuperate. It's important. Exercise regularly, build your immunity with good food. I mean, these are things which will go a long way. And of course, if you feel stressed, we all have psychiatrists in various hospitals. So just walk in and say, this is what I'm feeling, and I would like to talk about it. Don't think people are going to look at you and feel, oh, this guy can't manage the COVID scenario. It's
I
important that, yeah.
I think that's a great suggestion, considering schools at some point had made it compulsory to have a consultant or a psychotherapist at schools. To have them in hospitals implanted would be a fabulous way forward. I don't think that's a rule yet, is it?
No, every hospital has a psychiatry department. Every hospital has psychiatrists who are already working in that hospital. And we all are attending our hospitals now on a regular basis. So all you need to do is just walk into our chamber and say, I'm a resident who's working in a COVID ward and I feel stressed. Can I just talk to you? And, just talking to us would probably help you. And you'll at least have someone to speak to.
Dr. D'Souza, during the pandemic, we lost a very beautiful soul called Sushant Singh Rajput. And I bring him up only because his case and example brought in a lot of people to say that if somebody with a brilliant mind and also a very high aim in his life, not just for himself, but for humanity as a race, and yet can succumb. I just have a question for mental health. Is it possible that a person who seems to be healthy and doing all the resilience precautionary measures that you mentioned, in terms of taking care of your health, doing yoga, speaking to people, despite all of that, could be mentally unstable and requires professional help?
Well, I always say this, that if anyone and everyone at some point of time can undergo a mental health problem. It's something we should remember. Even as a psychiatrist, we're not immune to it. Anyone and everyone can. That's one.
How wonderful and how honest of you to say that.
Yeah. Secondly, we also have to understand we're all human. So the stress can get to us at any point of time. So that's the second point. And the third point is, when this happens, please do not hesitate to seek help. One of the things which I've always said is, even normal people under stress go to a psychiatrist. You don't have to be mentally ill to come to a psychiatrist. We have couples that come to us with their issues. We have people with work stress that come to us. We have people who have been transferred from another city and are feeling overwhelmed and come to us. So we're not dealing only with the abnormal, so-called abnormal into quotes. No, we're dealing with normal people who have life problems. We're just advising them. See, I can't change anyone's life. I always say that. I'm not like a magician here that, throws a wand around you and, your life changes. No, I advise you based on my experience over the years with people. I advise you based on what I've seen. I support you. I give you courage. I give you hope. I make you more resilient. And probably, as I say, I teach you to flap your wings, but finally you have to fly on your own.
uh, as a country, I think we really look down upon this field because we say pagal hai kya, mental ho gaya hai kya, and we think these are bad words. As a parting note, Dr. D'Souza, I would like you to give a message which would encourage every Hindustani, every Indian, every person on this soil to look at this in a more, positive way and seek help.
I have always said this, that the time has come where we have to glamorize mental health as a specialty.
Yes.
Psychiatry is a specialty. We always glamorize cardiology, neurosurgery. We glamorize various specialties, and of course, they are more challenging. I don't say no. A person doing heart surgery or a person doing brain surgery does far more challenging work, maybe physically, in the surgery process. But I always also say this, that there's no specialty of medicine that is more challenging than psychiatry. It's a specialty where someone comes to us, tells us their deepest, darkest secrets, which they've never told anyone. And it's the only specialty where we combine medical science with the science of human understanding. So please do not hesitate to seek help from a mental health professional. Do not hesitate to break the stigma. Tell people it's very normal to go to a psychiatrist. And I will tell everyone, just go once. If you don't like it, probably don't go again. If you don't want to follow the advice, it's your choice. But go one. You never know, it may change your life a bit.
As a parting note myself, I'd like to say something. Sometimes our parents, sometimes our friends, sometimes, our peers or our elders, our bosses could give us sane advice that actually puts us to rest and makes us feel more relaxed in our situations of stress. They have been probably doing the job that you so diligently do day in and day out. And if a word can put so much stress out of your life, then imagine what a professional can do. Thank you so much, Dr. D'Souza. More than being a pleasure, I think this has been a huge learning for me as well. And I'm going to have lots of takebacks from this conversation and hoping this reaches everyone who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.